Bridget Knighton was inconsolable after learning her ex-boyfriend, Gayle Blount, the man who shot her 5 times, will be a free man.
My body's changed forever. Forever. This is why women can't come forward. Because you feel like the system don't have your back. It's awful. I can't believe this happened. How did it happen?
This is the story of Bridget Knighton, a woman who described how she endured years of torment at the hands of her former fiancé, Gayle Blount. Despite restraining orders and cries for help, he always found her. Then, one fateful night in May 2021, as she waited for police to arrive, Gayle reportedly pulled out a Glock 40 and shot her 8 times. Was it a desperate act of self-defense, as he claimed, or a calculated attempt to silence her forever? And how did a single piece of evidence shift the course of the trial? Welcome to Viral Crimes. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories. This story takes us to Miami Gardens, Florida, a city located in Miami-Dade County. With a rich history rooted in African American and Caribbean heritage, the city has a lively atmosphere, yet like many urban areas, it is not immune to crime and domestic violence issues. The tropical climate and proximity to Miami make it a desirable place to live, but it also comes with the challenges of city life, including incidents like the one that would change Bridget Knighton's life forever. Bridget Knighton is a woman of strength, intelligence, and perseverance. Born in Louisville, Kentucky, she was raised in a family that valued education, hard work, and resilience. She attended Central High School in her hometown before furthering her studies at the University of Louisville, where she pursued political science. Her passion for law enforcement and public service led her to study correctional services at Miami-Dade Community College. Bridget dedicated her life to serving her community in various roles. She worked as a security officer at the Department of Homeland Security, ensuring the safety of others in a high-responsibility position. Before that, she served as a collections representative at Florida Power and Light and worked as a correctional officer for the state of Florida Department of Corrections. Her career also included time as a driver license examiner for the Department of Motor Vehicles and a customer service representative at Bell South Telecommunications. Each role she took on reflected her dedication to structure, discipline, and public service. Beyond her professional accomplishments, Bridget is a devoted mother and grandmother. Her love for her family is evident in everything she did. She took immense pride in caring for and supporting her children and grandchildren, ensuring they had the best opportunities in life. In Bridget Knighton's life, there was an individual who played a significant role, her ex-fiancé, Gayle Blount. They were in a tumultuous and violent relationship that spanned several years, beginning in early 2017. Their relationship was marred by repeated instances of domestic abuse, with Bridget recounting that Gayle began beating her not long after they started dating. Despite multiple restraining orders, she claimed Gayle persistently ignored them, stalking and threatening her, making it nearly impossible for her to escape his grasp. Bridget described a fear she lived in daily, stating that Gayle insisted on sleeping with an AR-15 between them in bed and frequently threatened to harm her grandchildren if she attempted to leave him. She described their relationship as one of fear, control, and violence, with her trapped in a cycle of abuse that nearly cost her life. According to Bridget, Gayle's controlling and abusive behavior escalated over time, culminating in the brutal attack in May 2021. On May 21, 2021, the relationship reached its breaking point. Gayle had already violated a restraining order multiple times that day by showing up at Bridget's Miami Gardens apartment. Each time, he left and returned, growing more enraged. On that third and final visit, Bridget had already called the police, hoping they would arrive before he could harm her. According to Bridget's chilling testimony in court, Gayle stormed into the apartment, retrieved a Glock 40 pistol, and aimed it at her as she sat on the sofa. "Look what you made me do," he allegedly said before firing 8 rounds into her body. The bullet struck her legs, stomach, and back. Bridget collapsed in a pool of her own blood, clinging to life. As the shots rang out, police officers responding to her call were already near the apartment and heard the gunfire before they even reached the door. Unable to get in, they looked through a side window and saw Bridget, bleeding out and alone. Emergency responders airlifted her to Jackson Memorial Hospital's Ryder Trauma Center, where she spent 2 months in critical condition and underwent 11 surgeries. She survived, but her life was forever altered. She would need a cane to walk and would never again know a day without pain. For nearly 4 years, Gayle sat behind bars awaiting trial. In early February 2025, just days before jury selection was set to begin, Gayle shocked the courtroom by agreeing to a plea deal that would have sent him to prison for 20 years. It seemed like a resolution had been reached. But on February 10, 2025, everything changed. During a victim impact statement, Bridget rejected the plea deal, arguing that 20 years was not enough punishment for a man who had terrorized her, ignored restraining orders, and nearly ended her life. Judge Ellen Sue Venzer, after hearing the full extent of the violence for the first time, sided with Bridget and vacated Gayle's guilty plea. Judge Ellen Sue Venzer expressed her surprise at the depth of the case, stating, "I was not aware of the full background and that the victim was uncomfortable with the proposed 20-year sentence." This realization led her to reject the plea deal for Gayle. With that ruling, Gayle's plea deal was off the table. Jury selection was set for February 11, 2025.
A South Florida man took responsibility for shooting his girlfriend 8 times after thinking he would get 20 years in prison. But today his plan collapsed in court after the victim spoke out and urged the judge to deny the deal.
NBC6 reporter Christian Colon has the report.
Last week, the shooter pleaded guilty to attempting to kill his girlfriend. State attorneys were okay with him getting 20 years in prison for his actions, but that was not enough prison time for the woman who was shot multiple times. It's been 4 years since Bridget Knighton's life changed forever, emotionally and physically.
You can have a restraining order, be shot 8 times, and not want to take responsibility for what you've done.
Knighton says she was the victim of an abusive relationship with Gayle Blount. She says the 55-year-old would manipulate her, beat her up, and would prevent her from leaving his side.
I repeatedly tried to escape him, but he always found me often boasting about it. I was embarrassed, isolated, and without hope.
Knighton got a restraining order against him, but it wasn't enough to protect her. In 2021, Blount allegedly shot her 8 times.
Those restraining orders are just a piece of paper. They don't stop a bullet. You know, you have to advocate for yourself.
And today she did just that and showed up to court after learning the man who tried to kill her would get 20 years in prison. She wanted 25 years and urged for the judge to deny the 20-year deal that state and Blount's attorneys arranged.
If I must endure this pain for the rest of my life because I dare survive his attempt to kill me, then he should not be spared a similar fate.
After hearing she underwent more than 10 surgeries after the shooting and learning how abusive the defendant allegedly was, Judge Ellen Sue Venzer sided with the victim.
I was not aware when I accepted the guilty plea that this was the background.
And at the end, Blount was not willing to do the 25 years the victim requested, so the judge allowed for him to change back his plea to not guilty, and now this case will head to trial.
The trial opened with a heated battle between the prosecution and the defense. Miami-Dade Assistant State Attorney Matthew McKee painted Gayle as a dangerous man who had been stalking, threatening, and abusing Bridget for years. He presented evidence that police had heard gunshots as they approached the apartment and that Bridget was found bleeding out alone. Matthew told the jury he got a gun and started pacing in the hallways, describing how Blount had prepared to execute Bridget before police could intervene. Bridget testified in graphic detail about the years of abuse and how Gayle had been relentless in tracking her down. She tearfully stated, "He always found me. I was embarrassed, isolated, and without hope." She explained how she had finally reached the point where she was ready to leave him for good. But when he discovered her journal, something in him snapped. Gayle's defense attorney, Jonathan Jordan, countered that Gayle had acted in self-defense.
The man accused of trying to kill his fiancée is closer to learning his fate.
He took the stand today claiming he shot her in self-defense.
On Tuesday, jurors heard from the victim in this case who said that Gayle Blount shot her coldly and was angry when he shot her multiple times at close range. Today, they heard from Blount himself, who said he only shot because he felt he was in danger.
I took my gun out of the small of my back and I shot my gun. I was aiming at her lower extremities.
Gayle Blount testifies in his own defense, claiming he shot his ex-fiancée Bridget Knighton because he felt threatened.
When I pushed her to the couch, she said, "Oh, I got something for your ass." And on the couch was her purse and she reached for a purse. I believe she was reaching for her firearm.
Knighton was shot multiple times by Blount in May of 2021 at a Miami Gardens apartment. He's on trial for attempted first-degree murder. Blount concedes their relationship was contentious.
We had an up and down relationship, but she wasn't always a bad person.
But claims he never threatened her or set out to kill Knighton on the day of the shooting.
I wasn't trying to kill her.
This comes one day after the victim herself testified, showing the permanent injury she sustained as a result of this shooting.
When he pulls out the firearm from his sweatpants, does he make a statement to you? Did he fire one time after that statement, or did he fire multiple times?
No. I was laying in the floor, bleeding.
You're telling this jury you were in fear of your life and you wanted to incapacitate her, correct?
Yes, correct.
One shot at that distance, given your being such a good shot, would have incapacitated her, wouldn't it?
It could have.
And what you heard there was just a bit of the state's cross-examination of Blount. He was the only defense witness. They have rested their case. And so tomorrow, the trial will resume with closing arguments, and then the jury can begin their deliberations.
According to Gayle's testimony, Bridget had been verbally and physically abusive. He claimed that she had tortured him that day, berating him for waking her up and taking too long to pick up car parts. He insisted that she had a gun in her purse and that when she reached for it, he had no choice but to shoot first. But there was one major flaw in his defense: no gun belonging to Bridget was ever found. In a shocking courtroom twist, the prosecution's case against Gayle took a serious hit when they mistakenly denied the existence of a purse near Bridget at the time of the shooting. During closing arguments, defense attorney Matthew Rogoff presented a crime scene photo showing a purse right next to Bridget on the sofa. Seizing the moment, he pointed at the image and asked what it was, then confidently stated it was the purse with her firearm. The revelation left Miami-Dade State Attorney Mary Jimenez scrambling, and she had no choice but to admit to the jury that she hadn't noticed or remembered it. Though no gun was ever found inside the purse, the damage was done. The defense had successfully planted doubt, leaving the jury to question whether Bridget had actually reached for a weapon or if she had been an unarmed, defenseless victim. After a week-long trial, the jury deliberated for just a few hours before returning their verdict on February 14, 2025. The jury acquitted Gayle of attempted first-degree murder and of firing a deadly missile.
A Miami Gardens man was facing up to life in prison for shooting his girlfriend 5 times. The confessed shooter has been on trial this week and was trying to convince jurors that he shot in self-defense. But today, after hearing all the evidence, jurors cleared him from all crimes. Let's get to NBC6's Christian Colon, who joins us with what the jury decided and how the woman he shot is responding.
After hearing from the shooter and the victim in this case, who was shot multiple times, jurors sided with the shooter. They found the man not guilty of attempted first-degree murder and not guilty for doing the shooting. Bridget Knighton was inconsolable after learning her ex-boyfriend, Gayle Blount, the man who shot her 5 times, will be a free man.
My body's changed forever. Forever. This is why women can't come forward. I feel like the system don't have your back. It's awful. I can't believe this happened. How did it happen?
Blount has been on trial for attempting to kill Knighton. However, the defendant broke his silence and confessed to jurors he shot because he feared his ex was reaching for a gun.
I was just trying to stop a threat. I wasn't trying to, I was just trying to incapacitate her, but not kill her.
After hearing from both sides,
The defendant's not guilty. Oh, thank you.
jurors sided with the shooter.
I'm in shock. I never thought this would happen. I gave the system a chance. This is the 3rd time they let me down.
Knighton was stunned since for the past 4 years she's fought for him to go to prison. Just last week, Blount pleaded guilty for attempting to kill her in exchange for a 20-year prison deal. But Knighton stepped in and demanded more prison time. The deal collapsed and Blount chose a trial.
We were concerned initially that the jury may not believe him because he was a man, and a large man at that, but at the end of the day, justice was served.
Knighton now fears today will be the start of a violent future.
In my heart, I know he's gonna come back and try to finish what he started. That's my fear.
And tonight, the state attorney's office is responding, saying they are disappointed with the jury's decision, but say they respect it. On the other hand, Blount will have to stay in jail for now because he has an open case out of Broward County with the same victim. Defense attorneys say that case will soon also come to an end.
A stunned Bridget sat in silence before breaking down in tears. Outside the courtroom, she struggled to find words. She said, "Where in the world can somebody shoot you 8 times as you sit on a sofa and be able to walk out the door? I gave the system a chance. This is the 3rd time they let me down." Despite the not guilty verdict, Gayle did not walk free. Before he could be released, he was immediately transferred to the Broward County Jail due to a pending domestic battery charge stemming from an incident at a Denny's restaurant in February 2021, just months before the shooting. According to reports, Gayle had grabbed Bridget by the shoulders and pushed her into a table during a heated argument. Though she wasn't seriously injured, she pressed charges, leading to an unresolved misdemeanor case. At a Broward County hearing, Judge Chris Brown heard Bridget's plea for protection. She said, "I am in danger for my life. This man has already shot me 8 times." Judge Brown ruled that Gayle was a danger to the community and ordered that he remain in custody until the Broward case was resolved. Despite surviving a horrific attack and seeking justice for nearly 4 years, Bridget Knighton watched as her abuser walked away a free man in Miami-Dade. But she vowed to keep fighting. Gayle may have escaped attempted murder charges, but his fate in Broward remains uncertain. What happened to Bridget Knighton should never have happened. No one should have to live in fear, endure repeated abuse, or be left unprotected by the legal system. Despite restraining orders meant to keep her safe, they proved ineffective as her abuser continued to find and harm her. Survivors of domestic violence, like Bridget, deserve to see their abusers face appropriate consequences, not walk free due to legal technicalities. What do you think of the jury finding him not guilty and letting him walk free? Bridget Knighton, may you continue to heal from your injuries and find the justice that you seek. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.